Soon as we knew about Hurricane Ian, the United States Coast Guard was standing by and ready to launch. Responding to massive disasters is what they do, deploying boats, helicopters, and of course boots on the ground. And so far, Coast Guard sailors and pilots and their crews have carried out 677 rescues, 261 by air, 416 rescues carried out by floodwater response teams, and 163 aircraft missions executed so far. Joining us now, one of those pilots who's been carrying out those search and rescue missions, hoisting people to safety, Lieutenant Nate Jones. He joins us now from Coast Guard Air Station Clearwater, Florida. Nate, when you got the call that it was time to launch, tell us what was going through your mind and describe for us, please, that very first rescue you were able to execute.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Nate Jones. So basically, we launched about 4 in the morning before sunrise on essentially a seek and assist. There was no disaster or distress calls yet. Our job was to go out there before daylight hours on night vision goggles, assess the scene, and I tell you about 40 miles inland prior to the coast is when we began to see destruction along trailer parks, some of the heavier flooding. And eventually we arrived on the coast. And before long, we saw flashlights flashing up at us from those who weathered it out overnight.
You know, Terry and I both want to hear more stories about the rescues, but I just have to take a minute and say, and Terry, his father, because we were hoping that he was going to be able to join us, but we're going to lift him up right now because your father is a retired captain, Bruce Jones. He is Nate's mentor, role model. He kept his helo unit together during Katrina. You and I both were there. He carried out the same type of search and rescue missions. I know he was so proud of you, Nate, just to see you launch. What did he tell you, and how has his work inspired you in this moment right now where you are doing the same work?
Hi.
Well, this was reminiscent of my childhood. I was only in the 6th grade when Katrina hit, and of course, you know, my father's career and those he worked with played a role in my decision, and my older brother, he's a Coast Guard helicopter pilot as well, and my younger brother, who's a U.S. Air Force pararescueman, to join the Coast Guard and the service. When the storm was coming, we knew it was a big one, Category 4, quickly intensifying, and about 9 p.m. the night before, while trying to gather thoughts with our crews and come up with a game plan with all the unknowns facing us, I gave him a call and I just asked him, you got any words of advice? And he laughed at me. He just laughed. He said, you guys are going to go out there and you're not going to know what's out there. It's going to be up to you to find out who needs help, figure out what to do, where to bring people. And that's exactly what all the crews out of Air Station Clearwater, Air Station Miami, and the other Coast Guard units that assisted did.
Wow, that is awesome. And thank you and your whole family. What a great family tradition to serve our country like that. Let me ask you, your dad said you're not going to really know what's out there. What is out there? What are the major challenges for you? What are the major obstacles in getting the job done?
That's a great question. So first of all, power is assumed to be knocked out. So one of the biggest threats for aviation crews, towers. You got a lot of tall towers, and we started noting on our aviation charts, the lights are knocked out, which would typically be there for us to navigate around. We had some secondary and tertiary priorities besides the saving and assisting of lives out there. That was to assess the infrastructure. And you've seen the images of Sanibel Island. We were one of 2 helicopters to arrive on scene. The rest of the helicopters were back in West Palm Beach on short notice standby, and we flew Sanibel Island Bridge, and immediately, you've seen the images. We noted the destruction under night vision goggles, and it was shortly after that we began seeing flashlights on Sanibel Island from folks that rode it out and luckily made it out through the night. Those folks did not know yet that they were stranded, and if they weren't in distress at that point, they were going to be in distress that night.
That's extraordinary, and I just wanted, Kira and I have both covered hurricanes as reporters. It's a very different job than obviously what you guys do, that kind of work, that kind of life-threatening work that you do. But it is hard. So how do you keep going in that environment with the adrenaline and day after day getting out there? What keeps you going?
Look, there's a few big reasons why we all joined the Coast Guard or our respective services. And a lot of us, as tough as it is to see what folks are going through in a disaster like this is why we joined. We joined so that when somebody wakes up and they're not expecting to have the worst day of their life, and that day comes, we're here, the crew's here already, the guys on the ground, guys and girls on the ground supporting us are ready so that we can go out at a moment's notice and be their saving grace. And that's exactly what we did. So we were ecstatic to be out there helping folks and seeing the smiles on faces when they got back to dry land.
And I know there is nothing more amazing for you when you know you've hoisted people up and then you land and you're able to bring them to safety. And I know you've had conversations with some of these folks already, Nate. You know, what do they ask you? What do you tell them? Because I know there's a bonding that happens with those as well when they're so desperate and then they see you and you're able to bring them in. Just tell us about the people that you've met and how they've impacted you as a young lieutenant.
Well, it's rare. It's honestly rare. We get a chance to meet with the folks that we rescue. It's usually a quick airlift to a hospital or in this case, evacuation sites like Manatee High School or the Hertz Arena, where folks on the ground put together makeshift shelters for these people because we realized we needed to get as many people to shore as we could. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to see any of those folks afterwards, but I've read some of the stories. There was a couple we pulled off a boat who, luckily, they made it through the night in their boat. They woke up in a tree attached to the 50-yard pier that they'd moored up to the night before. So we were lucky enough to locate them in the mangroves east of Fort Myers Beach with their pet ball python, and we brought them back to shore. And from what I heard, they're ecstatic to be back on land, though it's unfortunate to see the destruction that's been caused where these folks call home.
And I don't know, but I got a picture sent to me of that python that you were able to rescue. I don't even know if we could zoom in on this picture. And that's what I was wondering if you were going to refer to and if you could even see this. All right, we're going to go tight on one of the cameras, this one here, the python. On this one? Okay, here we go. And so you're not only rescuing people, but you're rescuing animals. And in this case, this couple had a python. Okay, Terry and I are thinking, what the heck? But, I mean, this is your job, right, Nate?
Well, that's correct. In addition to saving human lives, we're out there to keep families together. Pets are families. So in addition to the 260-plus lives saved and assisted, we've saved in excess of 75 pets from dogs, cats, and the one serpent as of Saturday.
Member of the family, so that's good to hear. But you talked about the scenes of destruction, and you have had now this overhead perspective on this disaster. Tell me about it. Well, how does it strike you, what you're seeing as you fly over these areas?
Well, like I said, it was the circumstances provided a whole bunch of unknowns for our crews. So we assumed there'd be flooding. We assumed the power would be out. The forces that come with a Category 4 hurricane, especially in the image you see here with these mobile home parks, with the trailer parks, absolute destruction. And when we flew over Sanibel Island and daylight was just breaking when we began hoisting the first group of people from a house, and as the light began to increase as the sun rose, I took a look around as my co-pilot, Julie Frosley, was hoisting in the right feet. And I realized we were surrounded by destroyed homes and wreckage.
Lieutenant Nate Jones, the family legacy lives on. We appreciate just your work and what you're doing. Thank you so much, Nate, for joining us. And I know you're going back out there to help with more search and rescue missions. We really appreciate you, everything you're doing, everything the United States Coast Guard is doing, Nate.
Thank you. We're surrounded by the dream team here. I'm representing them. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.